Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about something that we have not talked about in quite a while here on the channel, which is the NBA. So I figured since we have not discussed it here, I don't think since the week of Christmas that it was about time to talk about it again. Now the funny part about the NBA is it has conferences, but nobody talks about conferences. All anybody looks at is the 8 teams in the Eastern Conference going to the playoffs and the 8 teams in the Western Conference going to the playoffs. But there actually are division winners. It's just for whatever reason, unlike any other sport, nobody talks about it. All they talk about is who's going to the playoffs. And even though the NBA has their All-Star game in February, it's normally right around Valentine's Day, and they call that the halfway point of the season, we all know that it's way past the halfway point of the season. To me, if you play 82 games, once you play 41, it's the halfway point of the season, which is about where we are right now. So I figured it was time to discuss the NBA again, and we'll look at the current top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference and the current top 8 teams in the Western Conference to see who would be in the playoffs if the NBA playoffs started right now. In the Eastern Conference, the best team is the Chicago Bulls, which is a shock to anybody and everybody. I think everybody thought they would get better and they would improve, but I don't think anybody thought they would improve the way they have improved, as much as they have improved. The number 2 seed right now, no surprise to anybody, is the Nets, of course, in which they're on pace to win 54 games. But that's good. But most people who follow the NBA probably had the Nets to win 60-plus games. So even though they have been good, I don't think they've been quite as impressive as most people thought they would be, which is no surprise to me because they do still have James Harden, whose name should be James Harden because there's never been no D in Harden. The number 3 seed right now in the Eastern Conference is the Miami Heat, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers, and 6 through 8 is the Cavaliers, the Hornets, and the Raptors, and the Hawks, who I, by the way, were extremely wrong with because before the season started, I had the Hawks winning their division and going to the playoffs. The way it's looking right now, that's not happening. I only did that because of the fact they improved so much last year after they brought on Nate McMillan, and then of course they, gave Nate McMillan a contract to be their permanent head coach, and they brought back almost the entire team from last year. So I thought, hey, Nate's a good coach. They did good last year when they got him, so they'll be good this year. But now they've traded Cam Reddish, and a couple of the other stars like Collins and Herter are saying they want out. So it looks like the Hawks are fixing to go into complete rebuilding mode, which I don't understand why you go from being a playoff team one year to a complete rebuild the next year, especially as young as they are. I think they thought they were going to be good this year, and then for some reason, for whatever reason, they just haven't clicked, haven't gelled. So now the Hawks are panicking, trying to figure out what's wrong, and they're just going to mess it up and get rid of everybody and have Trae Young with a bunch of nobodies, and they'll be flat out terrible. The Western Conference side right now, we have the Phoenix Suns at the top, followed by the Golden State Warriors, who, by the way, got Klay Thompson back the other day after being out for 2 years. The Grizzlies are the 3 seed right now, followed by the Jazz and the Mavericks. And then 6 through 8 is the Denver Nuggets, who still don't have a point guard because Jamal Murray is still out hurt. And then we have the Lakers and the Clippers, the 2 teams from Los Angeles, rounding out the final 2 seeds right now in the Western Conference. And this is the first time that I can remember in a long time where the Eastern Conference is actually deeper right now than the Western Conference. And I mean that as far as good teams. If you follow the NBA, you know most of the time, if not every time, the final 2 or 3 seeds in the playoff seeding on the Eastern Conference are below 500. One year, I forget what team it was, but one year, only a couple of years ago, one team made the playoffs. It might have been the Pistons with a 38-44 record. So they were 6 games below 500, but still made the playoffs because they were the 8th best team in the Eastern Conference. Well, this year, the Western Conference is that way. You have the Lakers and the Clippers as the final 2 seeds right now, and they're both below 500. And there really right now ain't a dominant team. I personally think the best team right now is the Phoenix Suns. It looked like it was the Golden State Warriors for a long time, but then the last couple of weeks, they've only been playing decent basketball. And, of course, everybody thought the Nets were going to be great, but I never did because they've got James Harden. And, of course, last night, Kevin Durant got injured, and he hurt his MCL. They're supposed to get the x-ray results back today to find out how long he'll be out. So hopefully, for the Nets' sake, he won't be out for a long, long period of time. And, of course, everybody in the world thought the Lakers were going to be good because they've got the overrated, I can't shoot LeBron James. But here we are in the middle of January, and they're below 500 because you've got LeBron James and a cast of misfits. They ran off all the young guys they had to try to make LeBron James happy, and they bring in a bunch of old players. And I believe the Lakers have either the oldest or the second oldest roster in the league. And you can't win in the NBA when you have a bunch of old guys playing against a bunch of young guys. And my New Orleans Pelicans, I want to give them a shout out because they started out awful. They started out dreadful. They started out 1-10. They're currently sitting at 16-27. So since that 1-10 start, they're 15-17. So they're actually playing pretty good basketball after that just complete dreadful start they had. And they're actually only about 4.5 games out of the 8th final playoff spot right now. So if they can keep playing the way they've played since that awful 1-10 start, they have a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they'll make it, but to see them playing right around 500 after that awful start, to me, is exciting for the future, especially as young as they are. And they're building the team around Brandon Ingram and making him their star, which they should do because we all know Zion Williamson, just, first of all, he can't shoot. All he can do is dunk, and that's all he's ever done. Even back to high school, all Zion's ever done is dunk. And second of all, he's about so big now, he just about can't even jump anymore. So they don't have any business building the team around Zion. So I do think that building the team around Brandon Ingram is a good thing. Brandon Ingram is a phenomenal basketball player. I really enjoy watching him play. And, of course, they've also got Devontae Graham and Jackson Hayes and Josh Hart and Jonas Valanciunas. So they've got some young players. They need 1 or 2 more great star players, and I think they're heading in the right direction, especially now that they've gotten rid of Alvin Gentry as their head coach. Any thoughts on the NBA right now? Who you think is the best team? Please feel free to let me know. Like I said, in my personal opinion right now, the best team is the Phoenix Suns. Hopefully Chris Paul can stay healthy for the rest of the season. We'll find out what they can do come playoff time. But I'm also anxious to see if the Bulls can keep up the pace they're on. I knew they were going to be better, but I'm surprised that they've gotten this much better. Still rumors about where Ben Simmons is going to end up going. Now the rumor is he's going to get traded to the Sacramento Kings coming up here in the next few days. We'll have to sit back and wait and see where that goes. I mean, they're sitting right now as the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, which is about where they were when they had Ben Simmons. So they're really not any worse without Ben Simmons. But we'll see where he ends up going. I'm sure somebody will get him. I wouldn't want him because of that contract he's got, but I'm sure somebody will end up getting Ben Simmons. Any thoughts on that? please feel free to let me know as well. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why can't you give Elsa a balloon? Because she'd let it go, let it go. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.